All right. Well, today we are facing a significant challenge within our society. And it is sad to say, but we are living in a time where just by going out the streets, it's a type of a challenge for many Americans, me included, because we are living on some times where you can be profiled, unfortunately, for the way that you speak, the way that you look, and if anything looks out of the ordinary, we are living under a political climate that lets people and agencies on position of power to stop you right there and then and question you without any type of repercussions. So, being that said, today I am welcomed by Shae Rodgers. Shae Rodgers is a resource navigator with Ohio Can. She is very, very involved in things like ICE Watch and different types of government programs. But I'm going to let Shae start by introducing herself and talk to us a little bit of what she does. So Shae, thank you so much for being with us today, and especially since we had a little snafu with our technology today. But thank you for being here today.
Yeah, it's really great to be here. Thank you for kind of inviting me in. I know it took a while to schedule and then this tech stuff, but again, I'm really glad to be here. I do work as a kinship navigator of Ohio Can. We help kinship and adoptive families find resources. And then outside of Ohio Can, I do work with the Party of Socialism and Liberation, also known as PSL. And we are in a coalition with the Akron Ice Watch, which is a bunch of grassroots organizations that are working to make sure our local community is safe from ice.
All right. Well, it sounds like, and we had a little chat before today, and I find interesting some of the things that you do, especially with the Ice Watch, because it's a little bit controversial in this day and age, and it's a little bit difficult to do these type of things because right now, people that look out after this population that's being targeted, right? People such as yourself that are fighting and making sure that these people that are being targeted are safe. Right now, you're the group that this government and this administration labels as a domestic terrorist. And I'm not calling you by any means a domestic terrorist, of course.
Yeah.
And I absolutely 100% believe that's bogus. But nevertheless, it's the type of rhetoric that we are seeing from this administration. So can you talk to us a little bit about what Ice Watch actually is, what you guys do, and try to educate people so that they know exactly what it is that you do and why it is that you do it?
Yeah. So Akron Ice Watch we based it off of what was happening in Minneapolis. Obviously, we have more time to prepare because we weren't suddenly overtaken by ICE, but we know for a fact that the North Hill area in Akron has an immigrant population that they are aware of, and in other places of Ohio, like Springfield, there's the oh, did I freeze for a moment
No,
there?
you're fine. You're fine. Yeah.
There is a Haitian population in Springfield that a lot of people are worried about, including even my job, because we do all over Ohio. We think about these things all the time, like how do we best protect the people we serve in our community. So Akron Ice Watch, since we've had time to prepare, what we want to do is just have a network of organizations that are willing to work with us, or at the very least willing to say, we won't let ICE in, we won't let ICE take people. So for example, we have given out like no ICE allowed, or like no government something on private property that they can put in front of like employee doors or in classrooms, in the back of like classrooms or something, if they do like music lessons or things like that. We're working on training people on rapid response. So if they see somebody being taken by ICE, what can they do? Can they record the situation? Can they get that person's contact information so we can contact them later to assist them in ways like, legal aid if possible. We have made contact with lawyers who are willing to assist us if that becomes the case. And then I personally am doing the mutual aid part. Me and somebody else, we are working on mutual aid training just in case, like, let's just say ICE hits Akron hard and immigrants are too scared to get groceries. We would want to do grocery runs for them. If they're too scared to, walk their kids to school, we would want to be able to do that for them because we want to not have their daily life disrupted by these thugs essentially coming on and ruining their lives and separating families. And we're mainly worried again, of course, about like schools. When midterm voting elections happen, we're worried about how ICE might come up there because a lot of people are coming to vote. And even if they're supposed to only go after what they call illegals, we know for a fact that is just not the case. That is not what we're seeing.
Right. Now, how did this originate? This whole idea of Ice Watch, and trying to help out this community, in particular the immigrant community. How did this come about?
So it was a collective effort. It's not just PSL. I know for a fact, like Indivisible Akron is a part of it. DSA, Democratic Socialists of America, Akron chapters is a part of it. It's multiple organizations who have already discussed what ICE is doing to communities and then being like, okay, let's get together and let's do something about it. We have meetings about it. We've actually even had a community meeting about it where we reached out to the community and pretty much said, what do you want to see? What do you want to see from us as we build this up? Because it needs your active involvement to make it successful.
Okay.
So it's honestly a huge group effort.
Right. So, and then, have you seen what type of outcomes have you seen out of this program? Because right now, I'll just give my example on the community where I live. I'm not aware of any. Well, there might be, but I don't know about Ice Watch here in my community. But I do know a lot of immigrants, and I do know for a fact, firsthand, the fear that immigrants have. And I'm not even talking about illegal immigrants. I'm talking about people that are here legally. Right? You have people that have lived here for many years. You have people that their families came here many years ago, and they've had a whole life here. They've grown up here. Quite frankly, their English is better than mine, and these people are afraid of step out of their homes because they're afraid that they're going to be targeted because the color of their skin or the way that they look. And we've seen a push from this administration where it has given leeway to agencies like ICE, the opportunity to racially profile these people. So right now there's practically no repercussions for ICE whenever they go out and try to target people and discriminate against them. So what types of outcomes so far have you seen out in your community that this program has had?
Well, I think the community aspect is the biggest. We've had so many people offer, like I said, we've had lawyers offer to assist, counselors, because we know how stressful this is going to be for the immigrant population. We had students offer to transcribe into ASL for us meetings so that we can get to the biggest, widest population possible. And I'm still reaching out to organizations, but some of them have already responded back like, yes, we're interested. Let us know more. We'll talk it over. We'll see if we can set up a meeting because we want to build trust with with the immigrant population that is in fear. We don't want to just come in and be like, hey, we're going to solve all your problems, because we're not going to do that, and it's not helpful. We want it to be a back and forth conversation. We want it to be a partnership, not just us like playing white savior, so to speak. But we have started to see ICE in the area. We have gotten some reports. We just recently, a couple days ago, in downtown Akron, they were out near some apartment buildings, like 15 of them. We got photographic evidence of that. And then without photographic evidence, we have heard of some in like the north-ish Akron area, but we did not have photographic evidence. But we do have a hotline that people can contact to report any ICE sightings. We do ask that they follow the salute method, which is like size, what are they wearing? What do they look like? What do they have on them? And then obviously they can get a picture or a video. That's even better, because we don't want to accidentally be like, oh yeah, ICE is in like East Akron, don't go there. And then really done not there and they've hit West Akron instead. We want to get people to have the proper information.
Right. So it's really a group effort,
Yeah.
it's a community that you guys have built around this whole idea. So and now going back to the reason that this is such a hot debate nowadays, and I'll just say this firstly, I think it's really sad that as Americans we feel entitled that nobody should have human rights. If you don't, if you don't have a card that says that you're a citizen, and so we're seeing a demoralization of our society right now, and we're just devaluing the life of a human being. We're devaluing the worth of a person, and we're basically stripping them away from the opportunity to have basic human rights within our society. And the scary part, and there's going to be a question behind this, but the scary part about all of this is that it's just not immigrants. It's not just illegal immigrants, and it's not just, and I use that term loosely. I don't really feel that anybody should be addressed as being an illegal person. But I use that term very loosely. And it's not just about legal immigrants that have been here for a long time. It's about, the security of everybody as Americans. I mean, we've seen, as of lately, the death of Alex Preddy. Very, very tragic. As you know, he was a VA employee. He was a union member. So that really resonated a lot with me as a VA employee and as a union member, and also as an American. It just makes me wonder, they did that in front of cameras, in front of a whole bunch of a group of people that were around there. And they were just not afraid to go ahead and take his life away. And it just makes me wonder what goes on behind closed doors with the people that they do take and into custody. Because we know about reports about the conditions where these people are kept very inhumanely.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of human rights concerns when it comes to how the immigrants that are detained are processed. And this, of course, it affects me, not because I'm an immigrant, because I'm not. And actually, I'm a Puerto Rican, but because of maybe my accent, right? Or maybe, some other thing that may give away right away that I'm not from this part or this side of the States, right? I've seen a lot of people within my own community that stay indoors. I've had family members that come and visit. They don't want to go out because, they're American citizens. They're born in America, but they're afraid that they're going to be snatched away. And we did have examples of a known person in New York who ICE did try to snatch away, even though he was Puerto Rican. So now, whenever we step outside, we feel like we have to justify and prove that we're American citizens when really we shouldn't have to do that. So going back through all of that, what do you think it's? And I'm just giving out my perspective and my point of view as an American, as a Puerto Rican. What are the biggest concerns that you see in your community that people are reaching out to? Have you seen any reports of in your community of ICE committing any wrongdoing like we've seen in other places?
So far, we haven't seen any or heard any active reports that they have taken somebody or committed any crimes other than, them gathering in some places. If there was one committed, we have not been made aware of it in this area. It is one of our top concerns that, they're going to go, because Akron is not big. Okay, Akron is very small. So if they hit one place, they're hitting a huge percentage of people. So for example, if they hit like downtown Akron, that's a lot of people that they could snatch and disappear in about 1 minute. And that is how fast we have seen them in other places move. So our top concern is having a wide enough reach that if that happens, we can alarm people right away. ICE is in the area, get out, or ICE is taking somebody, start recording. And of course, we also are concerned about safety. Very naturally, people are angry. I totally understand that. But we do want to make sure no one, tries to play hero and gets right in between an ICE person and someone in harm and thinks they can, combat it. Obviously, we want to keep anybody who is a threat of ICE safe, but it's not going to do a lot if we get shot by ICE, which is, we know for a fact they will do to anyone that gets in their way. So we always say, always have numbers. If you're doing rapid response, do not go up to any ICE member alone, or even with just one other person. You need a huge group to overwhelm an ICE person and save someone who might be taken by them. So our top concerns are safety and awareness. Making sure people are aware and have our contact information. We have business cards, which I really wish I had with me, but they're all in my bag. But we have given a ton out in the downtown Akron area, just to people, take this card. If you don't want it, give it to somebody else. If you want some, we even went to a coffee shop just to offer up the sign that says, no ICE members can go into personal private property for their employee break rooms. And somebody was like, oh, no, I'll take a ton of those cards because I have clients I work with and they might want these. It's a safety thing. And then also we do give out know your rights cards as well, because people don't know their rights. Not even just ICE members, but with policemen too. You should know exactly what you have to say and what you don't have to say. You don't have to let an ICE member into your home if they don't have a warrant. You do not really have to talk to them. You can't, you don't have to do these specific things that they will try and threaten you to do. Giving your phone to them, having you tell them what other people are. None of that is required by law yet. Fingers crossed it doesn't happen, but you know how it's going.
Yeah, I was about to say. So what can somebody do if an ICE agent were to, let's say, break in a home, for example, for the purposes of we. A lot of time we hear police use the excuse of probable cause to excuse, illegal searches and seizures of property. So is there something that people could do if an ICE agent were to break into their home or try to detain them illegally? What can somebody do in that situation, if there's anything that they could do?
So obviously, I would suggest having the know your rights card with them. Obviously, that can do only so much, but being I don't have to speak to you. I plead the fifth. I'm not going to say anything. Here is the know your rights card. This is all the information I'm giving you. We recommend people have safety apps on their phone that they can tap, and it will immediately send out, I'm in danger. Here's my contact information to members of their family, or we've told people to use the Akron Ice Watch Coalition's contact information as well. So for example, if somebody was taken in downtown Akron, they could press that button on their app and it would send out information to their mom and then to us. So we know, okay, this person's taking my ice. We can start working ASAP to see what detention center they ended up in. What can we do to get them out of there? What are the steps? And then we also recommend people, if they think it is possible that ICE might take them, to turn off any sort of biometrics on their phone. So don't have Face ID on, thumbprint, any of that on, to make it any easier for them to access your information, because they will use any information they have to go after other people.
Okay, very good. And if you guys have a phone number or website or anything, you can say it here. I can put it on our description if you want. And that way
Yeah,
we can share that with people that are watching.
definitely. Let me pull it up because at the very least, I know we have it on our Instagram because I don't have the card with me. Da, da,
Yeah,
da.
and we can post that up in the description as well. Um, so here's here's a here's a question that as we're talking,
Yeah,
I'm thinking about the average American that's a little ignorant when it comes to why it is that a lot of people defend immigrants, whether they're here legally or legal or
yeah.
illegally. And there's a lot of concern out there, and I would say, I mean, I don't know, I personally don't know that it comes from a good place, but I would think in most cases not. Concern about defending immigrants. Now, what is your position? Because you said you're part of the Party for Socialism. Is that
Yeah.
right? Is that okay?
Party for Socialism. You can call him PSL for sure.
PSL, right? And that's very interesting. And I want to dive into that a little bit, but in a minute. But what would you tell somebody that will come to you and question why it is that you want to protect an immigrant, whether illegal or not?
I feel like see, that's just a hard question, only because I feel like it's very natural for me to be that way. I've been doing social justice adjacent stuff since I was like 12 years old. I used to be on the forums arguing against people who said Trayvon Martin deserved it. So I've just always naturally been like someone who's like, okay, people have these very basic rights. Encroaching on them is just fundamentally bad. So if someone walked up to me and said, "Well, why are you doing this?" I'd be like, "Why would I not do it?" Especially as someone who does have the privilege of being an American citizen and someone who more or less doesn't always give off the vibes I'm not from this country. I have the privilege for once to actually protect another community. I want to use that as much as possible. So to me, it's almost like asking, "Why do I drink water?" Because it's what a human should do.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it sounds like it's in your nature because
Yeah.
you've been defending rights and justice and for anybody that cares about justice and rights, and here's my perspective: it doesn't matter whether you've broken the law or not. The Constitution affords us the opportunity to have due process,
Yeah.
right? And it affords us the opportunity to have representatives. So when it comes to immigration in particular, we've seen cases where they just I can't think of his name right now, but he got shipped out to another country. They had to bring him back under a court order because they were violating his rights. And you
Yeah.
hear a lot of people argue that immigrants and that illegal immigrants in particular do not have rights in the United States. So, can you please just dismantle that and just get that out of the way for people? Because I want people to understand you have rights here in the United States.
You have rights
Um,
everywhere. Like rights are that's why it's called rights. It's a fundamental part of existing as a human in any sort of like society. The societal rights, as long as you exist in a place that has like a governing body, these are the basic human rights that you are allowed to have. So even if, and this goes for even more controversial cases like felons, felons have human rights, even if they killed somebody, yeah, we can't just, beat the tar out of them and leave them for dead. They have the right to a fair court trial. Because once we deny this one party, either immigrants or felons or whoever you don't like, human rights, then anybody can be denied human rights for any particular reason. One day it's going to be immigrants, or it is immigrants, and then the next day, or as it since it's always so concurrent, it's African Americans and then it's queer people. They will always find a reason to, take away people's rights because it gives them, the ruling class, more power. So rights have to be fundamental. every single person, whether you like them or not, whether they did something you absolutely despise, whether they did something objectively bad, they have to have rights. Just because if they don't, then neither do you, essentially.
Right. And I wholeheartedly agree with you because ideally, and this is what people have to understand, and it's that if we deny a certain group of people their basic human rights, if we deny a group of people dignity, respect, due process, essentially what we're doing is we are setting ourselves up for failure in the future. It's them now, and then next it will be us. And it's not a matter of if it may happen, it will happen. It just takes the wrong person in the right time to make this happen. And again, I'll go back to Alex Preddy. Nobody thought that ICE. I would have never thought that I would see the day where ICE would actually kill an American citizen, right? So, and that's why there has been so much uproar on that, because he wasn't somebody that was obviously immigrant. He wasn't somebody that, I mean, he just looked like a normal person that you would probably just classify as an American if you were to see him just passing by.
Yeah.
There was no reason to target him at all, although the one reason why they did target him, and this was targeted because he had there were videos where he had broken the taillights out of a ICE car, I believe a week or a few weeks prior to that. So they had recognized him, and then they decided to retaliate, and that's the way they did it.
The thing is that even that's against the law. That's like, breaking property. That's not a death warrant.
It's not a death warrant. Yes, exactly, and that's why there's so much uproar. I mean, if they really wanted justice at the moment, they could have called the police.
Yeah.
They could have apprehended him there and then. Instead, they decided to execute him. They looked for the right opportunity, the right time, and this is what these people do whenever whenever you have somebody in power that wants absolute control. They don't care about due process. They don't care if it's right or it's wrong. They don't care if it is just or not. They don't care if the punishment meets whatever they did. They'll just go ahead straight to punish people, and they will implement whichever measure necessary to get their point across. And right now, their point is, don't mess with us, or you can be next, right? Yeah. So that's really the example that they set out, and that's why organizations like this are important, because, and I appreciate what you said. It really is about security, because it is right now a life or death matter, and it sounds very, gruesome. It may sound a little exaggerated, but it is a matter of life or death.
Oh, because every time we think, maybe it is a little exaggerated. I mean, we've seen them use a little boy to get access to other members of the community. We see them hit child care centers, schools. We saw there was that recent video that went viral of a bunch of seventh graders maybe running because ICE had shown up, and you can just hear them saying, ICE, go, run. And these are children who are going through things that are like terrorism. They're pretty much an American grown terrorist group, but they're terrorizing American citizens. And, as an African American, we're kind of used to, this sort of like overt militarized behavior from policemen, but seeing it on such an expansive scale, like it has always been just this bad, but this is extreme, honestly, I would say, because even cops weren't really hitting up daycares. I'll say that. Yeah. I've had yet to see a bunch of cops pull up on a daycare just so they can pull out a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Children, babies.
Right. And I mean, for somebody that has not ever gone through it, right? It's somebody that has never had to worry about being targeted, somebody that has always fit in their community, somebody that their families or ancestors don't have a history, of all these different terrible things. Most people take these things for granted, right? Most people will take basic human rights, they take them for granted. And a lot of times, what this does, it makes people feel like, whenever we talk and raise these type of issues, that people just want to cry over it. People
Yeah.
just want to complain about it. You've never gone through but people don't really know the fear that a lot of people have for leaving their homes because of being targeted. I mean, anytime me as an American citizen, and I'm not crying over it, but this is the reality.
Hmm.
As an American citizen, if a police officer stops me, that right there makes me nervous
Yeah.
because
And,
my accent is very apparent.
yeah.
You can tell that I'm not.
And that shouldn't be a bad thing. You shouldn't feel like that's
Oh
something you
yeah.
have to hide or be nervous about, but it's just the reality of it. I mean, when I was a kid, my brother has autism, and my mom was worried because if a cop thinks for some reason he's not listening when he just is autistic, because of his skin color, that might be it. That might be it for him. We've had those talks ever since I was a kid, like how to behave around a cop. And my brother had the eloping kind of autism where he would like just want to run away. And he had it before. And we're like, a cop might not help him. A cop might see this autistic kid, but he looks too tall, he looks too big, he's too loud, he doesn't act right, he doesn't listen. And that's really kind of a death warrant for
Yes.
people and it for black people, and it shouldn't be, but it's something that we carry with us every single day. I remember someone who was not black, they had asked why I didn't get a fun car color, and I was like, well, fun car colors tend to get pulled over more. It's a fact that like red cars get pulled over more because they stand out. As a black person, I'm trying to not stand out, because if a cop pulls me over and decides, ooh, I don't like how you sound, that's kind of it.
Yeah.
So it's like I have to make these unconscious little choices every single day as a black person, and the immigrant community does as well, to feel safer
Hmm.
against our own governing body.
Yeah, and it's sad that we're living. I mean, we should have grown past beyond this point, but we're still here. And I think we were at some point we were getting past it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, this administration, all it has done is it has reversed the clock of time, and
Yeah.
it's reversing history. You see these people trying to even erase history, right? And make things like racism seem like some kind of made up story. I mean, it's ridiculous, but and that's the type of stuff that dictators do. They want
Hmm.
to erase history because they want to make up their own history. They want to end up looking victorious. They want to end up looking like they're righteous, like what I'm doing
Yeah.
is the right thing, and what they taught you is wrong. Just listen to what I'm teaching you, because this is really what happened, and what's wrong with our society. And people, I don't get how people buy into this, but moving on
I
from.
mean,
Oh
yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah. No, I was gonna say historically we've seen this before. I know it's controversial to compare things to certain government bodies in the 1940s, but it's very, very, very familiar. And I was going to say, you see it in schools. I remember someone told me that they didn't learn about Hurricane Katrina until recently, like in the past 2 years. I was homeschooled, so I didn't have the public school education. And I have learned about Hurricane Katrina pretty much my entire life because my mom thought that was important. I learned about the very real version of Christopher Columbus and the very real version of slavery. If you are black, you have probably seen either 12 Years a Slave or Roots, the very more realistic interpretations of what slaves went through. And in school, they don't teach that. They don't teach anything about Martin Luther King past I had a dream. They don't teach about the fact that, the feds wanted him dead, like that
Yeah.
they essentially killed him. Like that is the reality of it. but they don't teach that because it's easier to convince people that racism was an easily solved problem after Jim Crow, after Loving v. Virginia, justice and peace for all, when frankly that isn't at all what it is even now.
Yeah, and it's amazing that people like Martin Luther King are right now on the, I would say, on the far right. People on the far right call him as somebody that was like a bad person, and I've heard this narrative as of recently. I heard somebody on the far right say this very thing. Martin Luther King was a bad person. And I'm like, what kind of history are we teaching?
Like, what could you possibly, have to say about Martin Luther? Like, he wanted Black people and white people and people of all colors really to exist with one another. He didn't even believe in violence. He was possibly the easiest person you could take and say, this is what racial justice should look like, compared to maybe the likes of like Malcolm X or other Black radicals. And yet still the alt-right or other parties will be like, well, he kind of wanted Black people to sit in from the bus, and we didn't like that very much. He should have done it. He should have voted, or like, they'll always come up with a reason on why progress is bad.
Right. And yeah, and well, I mean, we are right now, we are facing the anti-progress movement. I mean, I say this all the time when they say "Make America Great Again." What they really mean is, let's go back to a time where women couldn't vote. Let's go back to a time where, you couldn't sit on the same bus as a Black person, or stuff like this. That this administration is trying to go back, and they think to themselves, this was the greatest time America ever had. When, in reality, I mean, we went through economical crisis, and I mean, so what's really great about the only reasonable thing that you can think about when they say let's make America great again, it's going back to a time where nobody had any rights, where social justice isn't a thing, where people don't have a voice, where we can marginalize, where we can have people execute people in the street. I mean, we're even going further back in time, because now our government can execute people on the streets and not have repercussions for that. So I mean, I would say this is one of the worst times we've lived in a while, and it's very scary as an American to face this. Now, I want to go a little bit about into PSL. Because I'm not a socialist, but I'm not opposed to talking to anybody. I think to myself, it's not about a particular party. It's about getting together as a collective. I often say to people, if I ever ran for president, I would love to run one particular party, and have my vice president be another party, because of the fact that it's important to have insight and different perspectives.
Yeah.
And we as Americans, well, I say we, I don't have that issue, but as Americans, people have issue with that. People, if you're not in my party, you're evil. If you're not in my party, and we judge each other based on political affiliations. And right now, I find myself in a place where it's hard to affiliate or feel that I belong somewhere within the political spectrum. So for me, it's like, whatever, we're all human. Yeah, we're all human. And anyways, so going back to that, we see people like Zoran Mondani that won the New York election, and he's openly a socialist. And I think socialism is gaining some traction within our youth at this moment. And there are very convincing, I would say, and I take the bad and the good, because I'll say there's good and bad everywhere, in every single, um, in every single ideology. You will find good things and you will find bad things. But right now, there's something about the Socialist Party, or socialism in general, that's calling out to our younger generations, and I'm just wondering. Is it the social aspect of socialism? Is it triggered by what we're seeing right now under this administration? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think with socialism, again, is mostly about the community having a say in what goes on in their state, country, or city. And I think that really speaks to a lot of Gen Zs because we have lost a lot of community, especially after COVID. And when we see socialism, we see not only a community, but a community that is objectively for human rights. Obviously, like you said, socialism and any political ideology can be used for bad reasons, but like when I read socialist theory, it is people should be able to live their lives to the fullest and also be able to be a part of the government and actually have a choice in how their lives are led. And I think that speaks to a lot of people who feel like we vote and it almost feel like it doesn't matter. I mean, Ohio voted to make marijuana, for example, allowed in the state. And literally, ever since that was voted in by Americans, they've been trying to overturn it ever since. And it's like, but we voted for this. If I vote that I want this right and law in my state, and 99% of Ohio agrees with me, why should this 1% of rich people who don't like the fact that alcohol sales are going down be allowed to disagree, or be allowed to just lobby against it and take away the people's power? So I think that's kind of the reason why it has been a calling card. And then especially with Mandani's case, he has the moment he got into office, he started making changes for the better, things that have objectively improved New Yorkers' lives. So not only are we reading the theory and being like, this is good theory, but we're also seeing it in practice and seeing that it is actually improving things, which makes people way more likely because even for Democrats, they haven't really done a lot in the past like 20 years. And we know Republicans are also not really doing a lot to make American lives better. So far, socialism is the only thing we've seen so far actually doing something.
Right. And, I think that the one thing that, maybe not scare, maybe that's not the right word, but the one thing that maybe persuades a lot of people against, or away from socialist perspectives or ideals, is that a lot of people conflict socialism with
Yeah.
communism. And I mean, we've seen President Trump, and I believe he's even conflated these two when he was referring to Mandani at some point. Saying things like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe I've heard him say things like, we're having like a communist person running for New York, and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's really, and people have to understand, it's not socialism or socialist ideas and communism are two separate things.
Yeah.
And I do believe that Mandani has separated himself from communism. He says he's a socialist Democrat, correct?
Mhm.
So what's in your definition? What is socialism?
So socialism to me means that like people I'm trying to think of a way to phrase it. So like let's take a grocery store. The grocery store is owned by the people, not necessarily by just a capitalist like landowner, for example. So for all the workers would collectively own the grocery store. So maybe it's like, okay, should we have this sort of health insurance or this sort of health insurance instead of the landowner saying we're going to have this one because it's cheaper? Everyone would vote on it collectively on what they want based off what the health insurance offers. I mean, in a dream world, people would just all have healthcare anyways, but as an example. And the difference between that and like communism is communism wouldn't even have like an idea of property at all. It would all be owned by like one central party. I'm not saying I'm a fan or not a fan of communism. I just read more socialism theory, so I know more about that than communism. I do know that sometimes communism leaves a bad taste in people's mouths, but just as we can take the good from socialism or, democraticism or anything like that, I think there is good to be sometimes found in all, political parties. Like, I understand when people are coming from when they say I don't want big government deciding what I do with my private property. I think that's a fair thing to say, but then I also think if you exist in society, there are some rules, like, yeah, you can't keep like a nuke in your backyard for the sake of the people unless you want to live 50 million miles out and have no access to grocery stores. So there's like a give and take that needs to be had when we come to these like political ideologies and what works and what doesn't. But I think socialism, for what we're currently dealing with now, can do a lot for us.
Yeah, I've always thought of I've always thought that the Democratic Party takes a lot of stuff from socialist ideals. Um, but is there a distinction that you see in between the Democratic, I would say, implementation or lack thereof of socialism versus uh, what socialism really could do in practice? And we see Soren Mandani, to me, is an experiment. Like, we'll
Yeah.
see how that plays out. I do think he may lean towards a more moderate side of socialism. I don't think he's going to go full on socialist. But is there a distinction between what you see that the Democrats have done, or what their ideals is when it comes to, and I'm talking in the social aspect, right? Because
Yeah.
I mean, socialism is very broad, and it goes into, I mean, it goes very deeply. But I'm very interested and focused in the social aspect of basic human rights, basic dignity, respect.
Yeah.
So do you see any correlations or differences between the two?
I think democraticism versus socialism, and again, trying to get too deep into theory here, but Democrats will often see capitalism as still a way to have progress.
Okay.
So let's take like the housing, like it's for socialism, it is believed that everyone deserves to have a home. We have empty homes and then we have people who don't have homes. They should just move into those homes. Where Democrats would be like, well, yeah, but they need to pay for them because there's a way we do things in a capitalistic society. So maybe we'll lower the rent, maybe we'll give more funding to Section 8, but we won't just give these people homes for free. They don't, quote unquote, deserve it. Whereas socialism is like, no, you get a free home. And yeah, if you want a mansion, you have to work for it. You might need to get a job if you want a mansion. But if you need like a studio just for you and yourself, you should have one because housing is a human right. Or clean water. Like, there are people who have to buy bottled water because Akron water is not that great either. I should probably buy bottled water. And, Democrats might go, well, yeah, we might eventually replace the pipes, one day, but money comes first. It doesn't make economic sense. They're looking at the bottom line. Well, socialism would be like, no, it's a human right to have clean water, so we're going to make clean water happen. Obviously, we have to be a little realistic with like cost and stuff if we had put this into practice. But the main goal would be to make sure everyone is actually equal, not to make sure some shareholder has another bonus, which unfortunately a lot of Democrats will still be thinking about just because we're all raised with that ideology in mind.
And I'm sorry if I'm diving too deep into into the subject. I'm just genuinely interested.
Yeah.
Now, are there do rich people exist under a socialist society?
I feel like in practice, there might be people who work to get better things. Like, there might be someone who has a job and works more so they can have a bigger house, other than the house that the socialism government might give them. Like, maybe they only need a 1 bedroom, really, because it's just them. But they want a 4 bedroom because they love Legos. They might work more for that, but it's because they want it, if that makes sense. So maybe some people might have more money, but at the end of the day, they would all have the same basic equal rights. I'm not sure if class would exist in the same way, just because of naturally how things would ebb and flow. Like in a pure socialist society, I imagine there would be healthcare for all, education would be free. There are billionaires out there who could fund education for like the end of time. And if we took that money, for not saying we would, but if that money was used and funded, then theoretically everyone would be on the same starting level. So I feel like naturally class would just kind of break away. There would be no upper class, so to speak, just
Yeah.
naturally. But I think in practice we would have to see how it really ends up.
Yeah, and then there's always this fear that if and let me just get this clear out of the way before. So who would control the money? Would it be the government, or where would this money be controlled? Like who would decide where these funds will be allocated? Like if it's the people, then how do the people decide by what means?
So I know we had a socialist book club, and I wish I could remember what the book is off the top of my like head, but it is just an overview of how socialism would work in theory. And there would be like a governing financial body, but it would be voted in by the people. Now, how that would look in practice, considering it would be voted for like.
It sounds like a quasi type of government, but in the sense that we're voting. But in America, we're not really a true democracy. Like
Yeah, because like if we went just based off popular vote, a lot of things would look very different.
right.
So I feel like in a socialist society, I don't even know if it would be like, oh, this financial body controls all of America, or if it would be broken down by states. Like people vote in for Ohio, for example, the Ohio financial body, the New York financial body, etc. But people would have more choice, and also again, just the ability to actually have their vote matter, I think is important. But voting would still be seen in a socialist society, I think. But we would also want people, like for example, Trump would not be allowed to run because he has no credentials for anything government-wise whatsoever. The people who would make, I'm not even sure if elections would be a similar model that would be used, but for people who would want to be in that financial body, they would need to have the credentials. Like we need to know that you actually know how to handle money, compared to someone who maybe was a reality TV star and might have skills better off in the arts compared to finances.
Yeah. Well, the problem is right now, people think because you had a TV show, because you have a lot of money, because all these different things, you must be good with money.
Yeah.
But there's so many. It's like college. Just because you went to college doesn't mean you're smart. Just because you're a lawyer doesn't mean you're smart. Just because you're a doctor.
You might know law, but you won't know medicine.
Yeah.
I would have a lawyer to do surgery on me.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll be honest. There's doctors I wouldn't want to touch me with a 10-foot pole. There's
Exactly.
lawyers I wouldn't want me representing me. I'd rather just take me to jail. I'd probably be better off. So, yeah, I mean, I do think there's a problem with the way that our society is right now, especially within the our democratic system. I think I don't know that I believe in a true democracy in the sense that for certain things, but I do think that we need the people's votes to count more. I do believe that the people should be the absolute voice to and the last authority to be able to really vote on these things, and not go around and these different strategies that are made in the hopes that we can tilt elections and manipulate them in certain ways. So certainly. Bottom line is our society is really broken, and I do think I have to. I may want you to come back on the show one day to talk a little bit more about it, but I do think, like everything, I want to call out to everybody. Just because you're Republican, Democrat, Socialist, it doesn't mean that you have the absolute truth, right? We can all take something from each ideal, and together we can make that into a to work better for the good of society.
Yeah.
Now, just final questions here. Going talking about socialist ideals and then going back to democratic ideals. If there's one thing that I do think both parties or ideals have in common is that the access to things like healthcare and different types of programs. And I guess programs are the way for our society to try to give access to people that are in need. So I think that's the way that our society is currently working towards trying to get to a point where we can be as equal as possible. But of course, it's not perfect. But now more than ever, I mean, we're at a time where even that we're losing even that because we're seeing cuts and fundings of programs that are essential for healthcare. We're seeing cuts in all types of programs that enable people to have access to food, transportation. And can you tell us about some of the programs that you may be involved with or that you see that have been, either their funding has been cut, and how that's impacting our society and our people right now?
So I'll talk pretty much just as my experience as a navigator. We used to be able to send people referrals to rental assistance programs. One, for example, was like Benjamin Rose used to do rent assistance in Cuyahoga County, which is like the Cleveland area. Or sometimes churches would get funding to do rental assistance. Various different pockets would have like rental grant programs where they could give a set amount of money to a family. And as of like mid last year to this year, there are no more rent assistance programs in Cuyahoga County other than Ohio can. And we have an eligibility of like you have to be a kinship family, which is someone who's taking care of a grandchild or a niece, like someone you have a relationship with, but you aren't the biological caregivers of the biological parents or adoptive families. So we already have like eligibility restrictions or requirements, but we are one of the only locations that will offer rent because families will come in saying, I had to take in these kids and buy them beds, and now I'm $500 late on rent. Where can I go? And I'll call churches, I'll call locations. I'm like, do you have funding? Do you have funding? None of them will have funding. Every blue moon, you'll hit a lucky star and they'll have some funding and they'll be like, yeah, we can push it. For example, Adoption Network Cleveland used to have $500 to gift to kinship and adoptive families. And as far as I'm aware, that program no longer exists at all, which is just these families don't always get a ton of support, specifically kinship families. They do not always get, because it's very sanctioned by the government. Like a grandma might take in a grandkid with no child services involvement, but that means they're not eligible for like caregiver assistance programs, are not eligible for foster care payments that a foster parent might be eligible for. And so they're struggling to make ends meet, and they don't even know that there are options out there for them. Like for Ohio, we have Ohio Works First, but only for children. So you're taking care of a child that you are not the direct biological parent of. You can apply for that and get an extra $200 to $300 a month. But do caregivers know about that? No, which is what Will Ohio Can is here for. We're here to tell them that. But as these programs get cut more and more, we're starting to see these various benefits go away. Like SNAP is changing a lot. I've had families say that even though SNAP changes aren't fully in place yet, because it doesn't happen until July, their SNAP was cut anyways. And now they're down to only $100 a month, which doesn't even, that barely feeds me, myself for a week. And they got 3 kids. So what are they supposed to do? And we can send them to food banks, but now food banks are stretched thin because people aren't using benefits as much because they don't have those benefits. And they also got their funding cut. So if everyone's funding is cut, where do we send these people in need? that is a question that we are facing, essentially every single day at our jobs.
Right. That 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 really is the importance of diversity within our way of thinking, and our different perspectives. Just imagine if right now our government, if we didn't have people that had the ability um, to fight or run these type of programs. Right now, I mean, people would absolute go. I mean, we already have people going hungry in America, unfortunately, and nobody should. And I know this firsthand. I mean, I know this firsthand, but nobody in America should suffer. Go hungry. No kid in America should lack education. There's these basic needs that humans have, and if it weren't for differences in opinion, if it weren't for our ability to express our opinions, we would have people dying every day. I mean, more so than we do right now. We would have people right now that I mean, we would have the streets just basically filled with homeless people, more so than we already do, because there wouldn't be any sense of making it right for the people that need the help, right?
Yeah.
So, if there's one thing I can tell you I took out of this conversation, and I took a lot, but it's that we need we need to respect our differences and our perspectives, and as a society we have to adopt, um, we have to look at the good, we have to look at the bad, and we have to make it work for each other. We at the end of the day, we're all in this together.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't I want to care for my neighbor? Why wouldn't I want my neighbor to have food? Why wouldn't I want my neighbor to have the same benefits that I have? Why wouldn't I want that for my neighbor, right? So really, this is the importance of social programs such as the ones that you work with. That's the importance of things like SNAP. People rely on SNAP. People rely on Medicare, Medicaid. People rely on these programs for a reason.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we have, rent is out of control. People can barely afford housing right now. And by the time they end up paying for rent, they don't have enough money for anything else. I mean, they barely have enough money to even make it to work. So how do we expect the people to work? How do we expect the people to being able to keep up and being able to live a life that is dignified and I mean, fair for everyone? So,
And that's a
uh,
key point there where you say like dignified, because a lot of people say, well, homeless people are technically living, but they're like bouncing from homeless shelter to homeless shelter. They're trying to find gyms that will allow them to shower, and they're treated as inhuman. A dignified life, in my opinion, is a human right. You should be allowed to be comfortable. And I can't comprehend not caring for my neighbor. I recently talked to Akron Beacon. We did an interview about Akron Ice Coalition, and I said, your neighbors, and like a lot of people fear their neighbors, and true crime is one of the reasons I think that is happening, where people are always scared of each other. They think everyone is angry or out to get them. And if you actually talk to your neighbors or your community, I find that 99% of people are nice and lovely to talk to. I had talked to people who called themselves conservatives, and I changed their mind about a few things. They didn't change mine, but I'm pretty set in my ways. So no harm to no fault on them for that. But like, we can have these conversations and speak to one another and still care for one another. And again, like I said, 90% of people, in my opinion, are nicer than we think. I hold a healthy amount of like fear when I walk outside at night alone or something. Like, I am on the defense just naturally as a woman, but most people, when I meet them, they're perfectly fine people, and I think that's something we need to keep in mind, because the ruling class, the government, whoever, They want you to be scared of your neighbor. They don't want you to realize, hey, we're all human. We deserve all these same rights, because then they lose their power. They lose their power when they don't have anger and hate. That's what fuels them. And the nice thing about PSL, and honestly Akron as a city as a whole, is that it's not power through fear. It's power through community. And not to sound very soft and squishy here, but power through love. I think everyone here really cares about one another. I haven't seen a community so caring since I've moved here.
Right. Well, we certainly need more of that, for sure. We certainly need more love, more unity, and especially in this time. So my hope for the future is that one day we are able to see each other not as enemies, but as neighbors, as friends, as people that have the same needs. At times we look at somebody and that we think to ourselves, man, this guy, I mean, his face, he's just angry all the time. You never know what's going on the inside.
Yeah.
And all it takes a lot of times, it's just a lot of times people just need to talk, right, and feel human. So yeah, hopefully one day, but as of right now, we'll see what the future holds.
We're working on it.
Yeah.
We're working on it. I think with Madani, Ohio, we have someone who's running for Senate. We have Greg Levy running for Ohio Senate. He's a very caring, down-to-earth guy. He is trying to run the socialist platform. And you don't have to be socialist, but if you have those beliefs of care, I think as the tide turns, you're going to have a real shot in making change. You just have to go for it. I say this like all the time, to the point it's probably annoying. I always say there's nothing to it but to do it. Like, you just have to go for it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you don't have to subscribe to a full on to one particular group to be able to believe in the same things, if that makes sense. So in that sense, I will say, we should all take something from socialism and really apply it to our society, and not just to society, to our mindset and to our hearts, and say, well, let's care more for each other. Mm-hmm. And let's make it more about us, not just me. So yeah. Well, for everybody that's watching, thank you so much for being with us today. This has been Shae Rodgers. Shae, it's been great to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been very interesting, and thank you for what you're doing with with your community, for caring for your neighbors, and trying to keep your neighborhood safe. So hopefully in the future, like I said, we'll have a better outcome. But for now, keep on fighting, keep on doing what you're doing. And hopefully we'll have you again on the show at some other point. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for the work you do. It was so nice talking to you. And again, I hope I am back on the show, and hopefully some things have changed for the better.
All right, everybody. Well, that's it for today's show. So I hope everybody has taken something out of this episode as well. There's always something that we have to learn from each other. So don't just jump into conclusions. Just sit, listen, and share ideals. We live in a society where we can share ideals, and we should be able to have these conversations as adults. So again, thank you very much, everybody, for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you are not subscribed to my channel, please make sure to hit the subscribe button. It really helps us out, as we are a growing channel, and I can assure you what we are doing here. We want to make sure that people keep fighting for the rights. We don't want people to give up. We want people to keep on believing that there is power in community, and there is power in being uniting all together in one way of thought. So thank you very much again. I'll see you in the next time. God bless, and remember, we're not giving up.